What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Grid Encore. I'm your host, Ben Snyder, joined, as always, I think, by Brandon Crossland. I've been in and out. I'm going to be out again next week, so it's nice to have Brandon back with us again here. Some normality, regularity today here for you all. I'm sorry I'm going to be gone again next week, but in the meantime, let's have a good show tonight. Brandon, how are you?
Doing fine, Ben, and yeah, don't worry, we'll mess up that regularity next week as well. Hey, another Motor Monday, and good to have the original crew here together again.
Appreciate it. Yeah, I got to be honest, I didn't even realize how compacted my 3 trips were. I've been telling people, I'm going to 3 different places in like 6 weeks this summer. It's actually really more like 4.5 weeks. So more on that programming note coming at the end of the show to keep you all wondering what's going to happen for next week. We don't even know 100%, I think, what it's going to look like, but there will be a show hopefully for you all. And then once I get through my London trip, semester will start back up again. Hopefully we'll kind of get back in the flow without too many more interruptions the rest of the year. But in the meantime, boy, Brandon, sure it's a shame we got nothing to talk about really from Indianapolis. That Xfinity race didn't leave us with too much talking points there.
No.
Of course, being facetious, obviously, we have to start with the Xfinity race. But before we do that, as always, we need to start with our Patreon investors and thank them for their support. Colin Deschelle, Mark, Robin, David, and the great Matthew Owens, who will show you his reaction to what happened here in just a moment on USRN. But thank you all for continuing to invest in what we do here at the Grid Network. And if you like what you see this evening, if you like what you've seen on some of our other shows, you can consider joining them to support what we're trying to build here at this motorsports media outlet. Or if you'd rather make a one-time tip to us instead, you can tip us through Super Chat if you're watching live on YouTube, or you can visit the Buy Me a Coffee link in the description box below as well. Any amount continues to help us grow the Grid Network, help us get to more races and be in more places on a more regular basis, as Joe will be at Portland here in a couple of weeks for IndyCar, and then in about a month for the Xfinity Series. And let's jump right into that right now. Obviously, big talking point with the race winner. Congratulations to Connor Zilisch winning the 100th race in the history of junior motorsports. It looked for a while it was maybe going to be Justin Allgaier, and then he had a run-in with kind of his factory teammate, I guess you could say. That is a Hendrick Motorsports car from the big HMS shop. It's not officially a teammate, but those two have worked together very closely in Larson's double attempts the last 2 years, obviously. Unfortunate set of circumstances for the two of them there. Certainly not intentional on Kyle Larson's part, taking out Allgaier and ending his chances to win. Not sure you can say the same for what happened between Austin Hill and Aric Almirola. Almirola admittedly got Hill a little bit loose going into the corner. Hill, to his credit, made a tremendous save and then threw it all away. He says he was just trying to gather the car back up. A lot of other people, I think, saw it differently. Here is what our own Joshua Birch and our friend Matthew Owens had to say when they reacted to it live on Josh's YouTube channel on Saturday night. Take a listen to what they had to say.
Oh, what a save!
Oh, my goodness.
No! Austin Hill! That is despicable! He just right rear hooked Aric Almirola head on into the wall. Austin Hill, well,
that'll be a suspension, that will.
It absolutely should be.
That was ridiculous. He saved it and then he hooks him. At such a fast part of the circuit, Austin Hill, get out. That is ridiculous.
And here's a tweet from a couple of months back after the Martinsville race. This is from Dale Earnhardt Jr. Quote tweeting NASCAR Chasm to hear Hill was the one who spoke up in the Xfinity All Drivers meeting to suggest he could be the one to mentor the kids was the best laugh I had all week. All right, Dale Jr. pulling no punches there. That was months ago, and that should give you an idea. Of course, when it comes to Austin Hill, this is not an isolated incident. He had the altercation with Myatt Snyder on pit road at Martinsville. Has had multiple instances where people have called for him to be suspended before. I think Brock Beer was even saying that after a race last year, and you can go all the way back to the Truck Series, getting into it with Johnny Sauter. In light of that, Brandon, I think a lot of people are asking, of course, there's an obvious answer to the question, should Austin Hill be suspended? It's not that, it's how many races should he be suspended for? What's your take on what NASCAR should do here? Should they stick to the precedent that a right rear hook is one race, or do you think that this hit was so massive at such high speed at that part of a 2.5 mile track, given a driver with a repeated history of controversial moves on and off the track, should they maybe put the hammer down and suspend him for 2 or 3 races, if not more?
Well, this would be a good moment to maybe put the foot down a little harder, maybe with some lead behind your stomp, and give him 2 races suspension. And that would have to set a new precedent moving forward, where, like, look, we know this driver has the history of causing problems like this, but this is like in a level beyond where some of those other incidents were. This, like you said, this is at a large 2.5 mile circuit, and I mean, you saw the biggest culprit there is the white gloves. As far as intention goes, this is not the time where you want to have the pristine white gloves on the wheel, because we could see quite clearly there from the CW camera that after he did save the car very, very skillfully, I might add, that hard left into the 19 was, if you ask me, clear as day. Seeing that quite a few times now, and this would be an opportune time for NASCAR to set a standard and do this for more than one race. But it would not surprise me in the slightest if it was just for one, and they just keep with the status quo. And he has no place there to teach the youth. That is pretty funny, and the Jurassic Park reference is always welcomed.
All right, I am trying to pull up that tweet that you were referencing, Brandon, that will show what you're talking about, the white gloves. Austin Hill came right on the radio and said that he was trying to gather it up, that he had no intention of right rear hooking him. I will also note that NASCAR held him 5 laps for aggressive driving, which I think is about the harshest penalty they can give without straight up parking him for the day. And quite honestly, he probably should have been parked for the day. There were only 8 laps left in the race at the time that penalty came down. So he really, honestly, probably would not have made much of a difference in the results. I don't even know off the top of my head where he ended up. There you go, 34th, right in front of Aric Almirola, whose day was ended in that moment. So it wouldn't have made a difference there. He still would have finished 34th either way. Let's see, we have that loaded. Here we go. Yes. So you can clearly see from inside Hill's cockpit here. This is from Casey Kerwin on X/Twitter. If you're going to do this, I would recommend wearing black gloves instead of white, but that's just me. Of course, I'd recommend not doing this at all, but you could certainly, I think, argue that Almirola got into him a little bit, got him loose entering the corner. I think if you're going to pay a driver back, I would, of course, be the mindset. I appreciate clean driving. I would want to talk to the guy after the race, especially, and I wouldn't want to risk damaging either car any further after an incredible save like that. And I think that's probably the most tragic part of all of this. It was an unbelievable save, and seconds later, he just threw it all away. But try to get him loose going into the corner at the end of the next straightaway. I think that's how you maybe show your displeasure if you're going to do it at all. But to straight up right rear hook somebody and then to try to feign ignorance and say, oh, I was just trying to gather it up, I had no control at that point, when we all clearly saw you were out of control, you regained control, everybody reacted, oh, what a save, and then you go and right rear hook the guy at however fast they're going.
And wasn't it like 10 laps to go at this point?
Yeah.
Like, it's not even the final corner. It's not even all to the wall and going to the line. You still had plenty left to battle Almirola for the win.
Let's catch up on the chat here. Denver, one of our regulars, big SVG fan, I know. I believe he's from Australia, New Zealand, and that's what he's referencing here. When foreign countries, fans from those countries, even they know that Austin Hill is the grub behind the wheel. Now his reputation is down to an all-time low. I think, again, you don't have to have been following this sport for very long to have witnessed instances where Austin Hill has been involved in issues like this. I mean, I forgot. I keep thinking of more off the top of my head. He had that deal with his teammate at the time, Sheldon Creed, and Richard Childress seemed to side, I guess, with Hill in that moment. He certainly sided with Hill on Saturday. He called Sheldon Creed the stupidest driver that's ever driven for him, if you remember that incident from a couple of years back. And then for Richard Childress as well to come out and say, oh, they did nothing to Austin Cindric when they wrecked his grandson Ty. right rear hooking him, going much slower on a straightaway at Coda. I'm not defending Austin Cindric there. I'm just saying I think there were a lot of people, I think our own Tanner Smith was saying on Grid Live Wrap-Up that he would have given Cindric a one-race suspension for that because the precedent's been set there. He's going to say, oh, they didn't do anything to Cindric there, which isn't even true. They docked him, I think, 50 points for that, but it just shows that he's not looking at this through an objective lens. I get that you have to defend your driver to an extent, but I mean, it's not the first time that he's made comments that have ruffled some feathers either there. Right. Our own Joe Samaniego, good to see you, Joe. And a good point as well with the additional penalty of losing playoff points for a suspension. Does that complicate it? I think he should be suspended and lose all the playoff points. And that is true. That's a new element here now in NASCAR. If you are suspended, you would lose all your playoff points. You wouldn't lose playoff eligibility, but he would start the playoffs with 2,000 points even, and that would certainly put a damper on his championship hopes. Brandon, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that. Does that complicate what you would do here, or do you still think it's pretty cut and dry?
That would complicate it a little bit. I mean, it's taking away earned points there from a driver, no matter what they've done. But also, I think it would be appropriate because, I mean, it would be very, one, unappealing, and two, just really problematic if our series champion was someone you could go back on the tape and find that they did that throughout the year. As good as he is on drafting tracks, that's not a good resume to have for your series champion, which he very well could end up being this year.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just adding it up here off the top of my head. I believe he's on 20 or 21 playoff points with his 3 wins and all his stage victories. So, and when you think about, I mean, that's more than half a race. Pays 40 to win a race. So that would be no small margin that he'd be losing there. I think your 2 championship favorites are the 2 junior motorsports drivers that were finding it out for the win on Saturday. I think, but again, this is the format that we have now. This is only going to make up half the championship 4. You get to Phoenix and then nail the setup or hit all your marks. I mean, Austin Hill would certainly be somebody who could win the championship this year, but first you have to get to that championship 4, and you take those playoff points away, take a race away from him, give him one less opportunity to go out and earn more playoff points. That certainly puts him at a disadvantage there. I know that a precedent has been set, and I think, or it had been set at least, I don't know, with Cindric not getting the penalty this year, with Austin Dillon. I mean, he did lose his playoff eligibility, but I honestly, I would have rather him kept his playoff eligibility but been suspended, or honestly, I would have rather seen him suspended without a waiver. But Chase Elliott got suspended for what he did to Denny Hamlin at Charlotte, and they gave him a waiver for that. So I suppose the precedent should have said Dillon gets the 1 race suspension, but he'll get to whatever. That's the price you pay. Winning is everything. We'll let you keep the win, and we'll give you the waiver because we hand waivers out like candy. But they kind of went with the opposite of that. They still let the win stand, and they didn't suspend him, but they said it's not going to count towards the playoffs. So I thought we had a crystal clear cut precedent following a couple of things that happened in 22 and 23. I'm less sure of that now. So I don't know if that means that there's no guarantee he's going to be suspended. But I honestly, Brandon, I would like to see it go in the other direction. I think he should be sat out for multiple races. I think past history should be taken into account here. And quite honestly, I don't want this to be seen as like a personal attack on the guy. I've never met Austin Hill. Just from stories that I have heard from people that have worked with him, people in the garage area a lot more often than me. I'm only in the garage area once, maybe twice a year, so I can't speak to it from that perspective. But I would not have a problem with him being sit out for a year. And when I say a year, I don't mean suspended, sat out for the rest of 2025. I would say, what is today? July 28th. It means July 26th would have been Saturday, the Xfinity race. Until July 27th, 2026, Austin Hill is not allowed to compete in any NASCAR sanctioned races. I'm that fed up. I'm that tired of him getting involved in these altercations and really showing no remorse. I mean, again, I don't know if people remember the Notes app apology. I mean, it was the weakest Notes app apology I've ever seen after he punched one of his fellow drivers on pit road. I'm tired of the behavior. I'm tired of seeing these things happen, and I'm tired of him, again, just feigning ignorance and acting like we all didn't see. I mean, Josh puts it up here in the comments section. Pretty hard to hide the hand movement with white gloves. And then to be given a 5-lap penalty and call it effing BS and F NASCAR, going off on the radio about, I mean, I imagine that NASCAR is not going to take too kindly to that.
Right.
I mean, if anything, I think that only increases the chances that something, that a hammer is going to be dropped here. So again, are they going to sit him out for a year? I severely doubt it. I imagine it's going to be a few races at most, but I hope to God that Austin Hill takes whatever time off he has, and I hope he has at least one race off. If they say that this we can't find any clear-cut definitive proof that this was intentional, then I'm going to be very disappointed in NASCAR for not taking a stand there. But I hope that he takes his time off, takes a long look in the mirror, and wonders why he has the reputation that he has, to the point where somebody like Dale Earnhardt Jr., an owner in this series, would tweet something like that and get the kind of response that he got from his fans on social media, who all seem to be in agreement here, and then to go out a few months after that and just kind of be proven right with what he did on Saturday. I'm thankful Aric Almirola is okay. He brought it up in his post-race interview as well. Obviously he had the injury at Kansas all those years ago with his back after a hard head-on injury. And I also want to say, I haven't seen this brought up, but I'm very disappointed in IMS, in Indianapolis Motor Speedway. The safer barrier was invented at your facility. You guys were the first to introduce that technology. How is it that in 2025, we don't have safer barriers, at the very least, all around the short chutes between turns 1 and 2 and 3 and 4? How is it that you see Almirola going to the wall and there's a point where the safer barrier comes out here? I just can't believe that technology has been around for over 2 decades at this point. And to some tracks' credit, Bristol has it. I know. I think Daytona has implemented it. They have it all around. Obviously, when the technology was new and when it was not in the best interest economically speaking, you prioritize the turns, you prioritize the inside walls. I don't know how we're at a point now, especially at IMS, at a track like that, where we can't have
one of the dangerous facilities in the world
all the way around. Yeah. I don't know if I'm going to pull this image back up here. If you guys can see right there. There is no safer barrier in the short chute where those two are. And that means there's no safer barrier where Aric Almirola goes head on into the wall at those speeds. Now he's got the Hans device. He's got everything else. All the other safety. I mean, obviously the cars are safer than they've ever been, but I imagine it would be hurting a lot less if he had the safer barrier as well there. So that's something else that I want to put out there. If anybody in IMS is listening or taking notes after this weekend, I really think there's no excuse for that at this point.
Yeah, it's really surprising, and that you bring up that is where they first had it implemented. So that's one of the major places they first had it implemented. So that's very surprising. But yeah, you got to have that there in the short chutes. That's where all the momentum is headed, is into those corners. And of course they're not really counting on someone to right rear hook somebody either. But you got to be prepared for everything. And like you said, it should be feasible at least by now, where it's at all points of the racetrack, wherever you're at. There's little things like inside walls where you don't think they're ever going to hit, like in the infield at certain places. Like we had the issue with Ryan Blaney at Nashville in 2023 or something. But besides things like that, it should be everywhere you normally are.
Yeah. I mean, you go ask
as a standard.
Yeah, go ask Jeff Gordon how many times he hit an inside wall and would get out of the car, and the very first thing he'd say to the safety guys helping him out is, "Why is there no safer barrier down?" I mean, and again, of course, Jeff has been retired for almost a decade now. So to a lot of tracks' credit, they have put the safer barriers there in most places where it belongs. But again, it's just I find it disappointingly ironic that the place where that technology started has not fully taken advantage of that. In an area of a track where we saw it come into play this weekend. And again, and even if it's not intentional, a driver, has a suspension brake, or, we saw that with Hinchcliffe, obviously in IndyCar, they blow a right front in the corner. I mean, you can have a hard hit, certainly in the short chute between those turns there. And I think that needs to be at the top of their priority list. All the improvements that Roger Penske has made to the facility, full credit to him there. But the fact that hasn't been one of them is pretty disappointing as well. Denver here in the chat saying if NASCAR have an ads, they would suspend Austin for at least 4 races to send the strongest possible message to ARCA, trucks, Xfinity Cup, whoever, that this kind of BS is not tolerated in any form of racing. Yeah, I mean, again, this is what we talked about after the Richmond race last year, but this is the top level of stock car racing in the world, and the fact that you can do what Austin Dillon did last year and apparently get away with it if you're fine with having your name in the record books but not getting the playoff benefits that come with it is pretty unbelievable. So, I mean, again, I think again, part of when you have a driver with the reputation that Austin Hill has, because I'm going to be honest, I just came from Sonoma. I saw a couple Austin Dillon shirts. I get it. The guy's won a handful of races. He drives the 3 car. It's a legacy there with Earnhardt. I don't know that I have seen anybody, whether it's at the track or on social media, that's really like, yeah, Austin Hill's my guy. I'm rooting for him. I'm going to ride and die with him all the way. No matter what we have to go through. I don't know.
Yeah. Where are they?
Maybe some people like that exist. I don't know. And I think that's a shame, because I think he is a talented driver, certainly on the super speedways. I've even said on this show before, I think, based on what he's done in Xfinity, you could make an argument maybe he should be in the 3 car instead of Austin Dillon. I mean, he has had some good runs
some
in this
days,
series.
yeah.
But he cannot seem to get out of his own way when it comes to incidents like this, both on and off the track. Getting involved in constant controversies here. And again, I'm tired of it. I wish that NASCAR would put their foot down and say, we're serious about this. We're going to try to put a stop to this and make sure that you don't do something like this again. And nobody does something like this again, because if you drop the hammer here and you give him 3 races instead of just 1, I think that certainly sends a message to everybody, especially in the lower levels, some of the younger drivers that maybe haven't been around as long, haven't seen as much in their time. You can't do that.
That type of move, Ben, it tarnishes at all levels. It tarnishes Austin Hill's reputation, Richard Childress, and the entire sport. It just can't be stood for. Although I do think I'm pretty sure I saw some 21 shirts on the golf cart at Darlington. I think that's where I maybe saw some. And it was kind of an anomaly to me, like, oh wow, look, an Austin Hill fan in the wild. Like, this is cool. But yeah, so I think they are out there.
Yeah, maybe Atlanta, because his sponsor Bennett also sponsors the race Bennett, there, and obviously he's won that race multiple times.
They're all up there in the Bennett hospitality suite.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, again, he's a good driver. He's got, again, it's just I think that's the most frustrating part about this. I'm willing to bet 90% of that Xfinity field in that situation probably would have lost and spun out.
Yeah.
It was an incredible save. And just to forget the danger aspect of it for just a second. He threw his own car away. Like he threw Almirola's car. Like, it just, you put together, you had a potential race winning or race ending rather incident unfolding. Had a remarkable instinct to do whatever you needed to do to save that car at the speed you were going, and then decided to throw it all away because you couldn't control your emotions.
I mean, that's a lesson for all of us, is it not? Just, you made a recovery, and then one little split second of retaliation will cost you.
That's a great
point.
Look,
you took yourself out and him.
That is a great point. That is a good message for all of us.
And I'm sure he regretted it afterwards, because now he can't win.
I don't know about
now he's probably suspended for multiple races.
He might regret it now. I don't know, but he regretted it in the moment because he was trying to pass it off as
maybe after the adrenaline wore off. Yeah. I'm hopeful that he's regretful, but his past has shown us that maybe not so much. Maybe not more than an Apple Notes.
Yeah, I'm hopeful too. And I don't. I mean, I guess I can check. I mean, I've got Twitter pulled up here. I don't know if we have received any sort of
Gluck
statement
poll.
from
Is
him.
Austin Hill sorry? Yes, no.
Yes. Austin Hill has not tweeted since the morning or the afternoon before the Sonoma race. So we have not heard from him in a couple of weeks. I wouldn't count on
Yikes, Scooby
hearing
Doo.
from him anytime soon if that's the indication. But I hope I'm wrong. I hope that he at least sends out. I hope it's better than it was after Martinsville. That is a very low bar to clear, admittedly, but I think he has to say something, and I think NASCAR has to suspend him. I think that NASCAR needed to suspend him for one of the prior incidents. To be fair,
Richmond.
Yeah, but
I don't think we're going to hear anything out of him until the call is put out.
Yeah, that's fair. Maybe wait until the calls, but yeah, that's a good point too. And we'll see. I feel like it's usually Tuesday or Wednesday that we hear about those, and if it's Wednesday afternoon, I'm sure Josh and Matt will have more on grid tonight. I'll be
on grid tonight.
Yes, of course. I'll be driving. Down to Delaware to get ready for a flight from Philly to the UK. I don't know if I'll be meeting up with Josh or Matt while I'm over there, but I will be in their neck of the woods for a few days. So
awesome.
I won't be able to catch grid tonight this week or make an appearance there, but I'm sure they'll have more on that if anything comes of this situation here. Josh with one more comment here, and then we'll move on. Austin Hill is the Xfinity Series version of Hocevar. Good driver, just can't seem to stay out of the news for the wrong reasons. I don't know, Josh. I mean, Carson Hocevar certainly had some run-ins and done some things that I think he regrets, but dumping Corey Heim going into the corner at a track like Phoenix, I think as bad as that is and indefensible as that is when a championship's on the line, I think that's certainly, I'm not saying it's safe to do that, but there's an added element of danger to what Austin Hill did on Saturday. And I think that just, again, not to say Hocevar hasn't crossed that line, but I think Austin Hill has sprinted past that line, so to speak.
Yeah, Hocevar maybe has flirted with that line, but Austin Hill is unapologetically
exactly
over it. Yeah, that's the difference.
Yeah. And again, and you can, and I know Truex got on Twitter and said like, oh, Hocevar's just an act. He doesn't care, but at least Hocevar's radio when Heim retaliated, and I wasn't a fan of Heim retaliating him either, because that's what set off all the chaos of the quadruple overtime or whatever it was. But Hocevar came over the radio and was like, okay, that's fair. I can't deny it. That's fair.
Right.
Austin Hill's getting on the radio and saying F NASCAR for them parking him for 5 laps. I just, again, I don't think that certainly doesn't help his case. And
also Hocevar at Nashville with Stenhouse, it was like instant regret.
Yeah.
That's my bad. That's mostly what we get from Hocevar, I feel, is oh crap, I didn't mean to do that.
All right. We move on now. Let's talk about the race winner a little bit. This just adds to the tragedy of it all, because this should be our top story. This should be what we spend the first 20, 25 minutes of the show talking about, because there's a lot of history here with Junior Motorsports, and I want to say congratulations to everybody involved, from Mark Martin winning their first race in 2008 to Connor Zilisch winning their 100th here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. What a fitting place to do it. And I think, honestly, Brandon, what a fitting driver to win their 100th. I know a lot of people were saying, wouldn't it be fitting if Justin Allgaier got them their 100th, because he's gotten them a majority of those wins and been with that team for so long. But I think it's fitting in a way that the guy who just turned 19 years old, who seems to be, as we've said, the next Jeff Gordon, maybe the next Jeff Gordon for real, if he can live up to the hype when he gets to the Cup level, and he's already at the Cup level in some ways, running part-time. Is it fitting that he's the one to win them their 100th and maybe continue adding on to the next 100 as we continue through the rest of 2025?
It really is fitting for the century mark to be that young and fresh kid on the block, and very Jeff Gordon reminiscent. You said it, but kind of in a different way, though. I think, not, and by a different way, I mean completely removed, in the same manufacturer, but completely removed from the Hendrick Motorsports camp. Is William Byron's sort of got his place there as that guy, along with Larson, but yeah. Zilisch is kind of in his own category here, really good at the road courses, just a natural raw talent with the road courses, and is showing that he has great skill with the ovals too. And to get the 100th for Junior Motorsports, it's kind of always been from Chance 2 with Junior and Truex those days, with the Taco Bell 8 and all those memories to Junior Motorsports era. It always has felt like that backwards hat, that young and scrappy, we're just kind of doing this to see what can happen kind of mentality. And now it's grown from so much more than that to ringing that bell in the Junior Motorsports facility on a regular basis. And Connor Zilisch been taking a lot of those lately, and that seeing the 88 to be the 100th too is a great hurrah too. So yeah, Connor Zilisch is bread. He's not just sliced bread. He is bread, and he's coming in a hurry to that 90. I think to that 99 next year with Trackhouse Racing, as many others do as well. But it's interesting to see that partnership, that kind of shadow partnership with Junior Motorsports and Trackhouse Racing as well. But yeah, 100th going with Connor Zilisch is very fitting. It would be nice to see Justin Allgaier be the one to do it as well. That would be a close second, but this is just fine.
Yeah, I think it's fitting that it was the 88, the car that started it all. I believe Mark Martin would have been in the 5. I don't know off the top of my head. I know it wasn't the 88. Brad Keselowski would have been in the 88.
Right, yeah, 80.
2008. But yeah, and actually if you go listen to Door Bumper Clear this week, I know Mark was telling a funny story about how he got that first win and how Brad thought he was going to be the one to do that for JRM. And one of the few times I think Mark Martin maybe got somebody a little loose and ended up spinning him out. Of course, Mark has a reputation of being a very clean driver throughout his career. But, to go from that and again, want to be clear as well, because people were asking, does this include, whatever involvement Junior had with DEI or Chance 2 back in the day? And this is all Junior Motorsports, the organization that started with the 88 Navy car and has evolved into a 4 and at times 5 car operation here in one of the powerhouses of the series. And again, I want to emphasize for people as well, I don't know if people sometimes just assume that this is the Hendrick Motorsports Xfinity Series team. That was Kyle Larson, who came back to finish 4th. Hendrick, of course, Rick has a stake in Junior Motorsports, and they have a partnership, just as they do with Trackhouse now, obviously with Zilisch and SVG and Chastain getting him a 9 car. There's certainly, I'm not saying that they don't share any resources or any equipment or anything like that, but I think Junior has tried to make the point multiple times that a lot of what they do is as an independent Xfinity Series organization. And I think that makes an achievement like 100 wins over the course of the last decade and a half or so an even more impressive feat for that team, and especially what they're doing this year. I mean, I had the pleasure of being in the media center with when Dale Jr. and Justin Allgaier were doing some media availability for a sponsor that they've just signed. And Dale was talking about how, he's not taking this year for granted because, there are some years where you unload the cars off the hauler and that speed is missing and you feel like you're throwing everything at it and, you're kind of scratching your head. You don't know what to do. And then there are years like this where you take it off the trailer and, you're doing what Connor Zilisch and Justin Allgaier have been able to do. And that entire organization is just hitting on all cylinders right now. And that's great to see. So again, I think whether it was Zilisch or Allgaier would have been fitting for either of them in their own ways to be the one to do this. But, for all the talk of how fitting it would have been for Allgaier, and Allgaier looked like he had a great shot at it before the incident with Larson, I think it is equally as fitting, if not more fitting in some ways, that Connor Zilisch is the one to take that. And again, we see Josh has a great point here too. I think the average finish since Charlotte in May. Yeah, I think you can go back to the average finish since his Talladega injury. Maybe that injury was a blessing in disguise for him in some ways, because I don't know if it just fired him up being out of the car for a week and not being able to perform, or seeing his car win. Well, Larson got in that 88. Larson's a part of that 100 wins as well. Or if, just kind of gave him a reset to take it to another level or whatever it was. But he has been unrivaled on another level since he came back. And if he can continue this momentum, I think there's a very good chance that he could do what Ty Gibbs did in his first full-time Xfinity season and just kind of walk away with this championship. I think, Zilisch certainly has every ability to go do that. Obviously, he's got a veteran teammate that he's going to have to get through to do that first. But Zilisch is just on a roll right now. What more can you say? All right. So, Brandon, before we move on to the truck series, I want to give us one final question here for the Xfinity Series. Obviously, I think we got a great race. We got a great story. It's unfortunate that it was kind of shadowed by the Austin Hill incident, but I think a lot of people have suggested that, as good as this may have been, maybe the Cup Series should be the ones alone running on the big track at IMS, and Xfinity should be joining Trucks and ARCA just down the road at Indianapolis Raceway Park of a short track like it used to be back in the day. What are your thoughts on that ongoing discussion? Do you like Xfinity at IMS? Do you think it gives these young drivers a chance to compete at and win at a track like this, or would you rather see them on this weekend down the road at IRP?
It is nice to have the Xfinity Series on the big track to get that experience, but I don't think it's near as much a problem as it is with Indy NXT, and that's where we say, they're not there, they're not getting that experience. Now, these Xfinity Series drivers, they are getting plenty of experience on all fronts everywhere they race, and so I don't think it's as much. You can't really use that argument as much as you do in the open wheel sector of American motorsport, but I think it's trending back in that direction of us heading back to a Busch Craftsman Truck Series weekend at IRP. Kind of where we left it. The thing for me though is we're going to have to bring a lot more stands back to Indianapolis Raceway Park, because that's the big issue for me, is where there's plenty of parking. Of course, it's right next. It's got a drag strip right behind it. It's all flat Indiana land. It's right for the picking. It's good for parking. You can get a lot of people there, but they're going to need to add some stands back, I think, to field a Xfinity Series crowd. And there might also need to be some updating to the infield, or I don't know if they would want to do like a North Wilkesboro or Bowman Gray sort of scenario where they, maybe they park haulers and such outside of the track and come in. But I feel like it's going to need some more updating for that facility to have an Xfinity Series weekend. Trucks and ARCAs are, they're doing fine there so far. So maybe there's been more improvements that I'm not really realizing here with this opinion. But some more comments here from Denver, and also our very own Kobe Lambeth for one later.
Yeah, Denver saying, I like Connor as a driver, but I feel the rest of the field will start targeting him to cool his jets. Yeah, well, I certainly think he's got a target on his back, probably for different reasons than Austin Hill. I think everybody just wants to beat him. Right.
Connor's a respectable competitor. Yeah.
Even SVG was saying that after the Cup race at Sonoma. He jokingly said, "Thank you for not being in the race." Is probably the first thing he would have said to Connor. Of course, they had a great battle in the Xfinity race the day before there. But yeah, I mean, like we said, you can't say enough about the role that he's on. Kobe brings up a good point, though, as well. Speaking of a young driver needing a reset, Kimi Antonelli needs one. His confidence is gone after such a strong start to his rookie year at age 18. And I got to be honest, I just pulled the standings up. I don't think I realized, you look past the podium at Canada, his last 7 starts. After that podium, his best finish was this weekend at Spa, which was 16th. He's had 4 retirements and an 18th place at Monaco, 16th in Belgium. So I think, some of that is probably on Mercedes not giving him a great car compared to the other top 3 teams, but or maybe the other top 2. I know Max is still driving the wheels off of that Red Bull. I think it's kind of hard to gauge where that Red Bull is in actuality, although to Yuki Tsunoda's credit, I think he did have a pretty solid weekend this past weekend at Spa. But, again, I think, there's a lot of talk about promoting a driver too quickly. And, Kimi, I think a lot like Connor Zilisch, kind of seen as this teenage prodigy who has a lot of hype and is a future champion of the sport. But there is, again, that debate. Like, do you put them in the top equipment in the top series to get them used to that as quick as possible, or do they need to kind of take a couple of years to learn the ropes of the sport through the lower series like Xfinity or like Formula 2 before they get that promotion? I think, there's merit to both sides of the arguments, but this is sometimes a risk that you see there. It's working out great for Connor, the limited Cup opportunities that he's got. Even I think he's shown that he's got that potential, and we'll see what he does perhaps as early as next year. Brandon, as you mentioned, at 99 is going to be open with Daniel Suarez leaving the team. But for Kimi Antonelli, hopefully he can rebound from that when we get to Hungary for the next F1 race. We move on now to the Truck Series at IRP. Congratulations to Lane Riggs on winning this race. Congratulations to Corey Heim on already clinching the regular season championship. So, and congratulations to Corey Day as well, career best second place run, something that I think he needed as a young driver trying to work his way up through the ladder as well, seen with a lot of potential. So good run for him. But Brandon, let's focus on Lane Riggs first here. Winning this race, was this his most impressive victory yet? I know Corey Heim said in his post-race press conference he felt like this was, or post-race interview rather, he felt like this might have been the first race all year where he didn't really feel like he had a shot at the win because Lane was just that much better all night.
Yeah, Lane Riggs has something else when it comes to the short tracks, and with IRP, I mentioned it last weekend with Joe Samaniego that the high line is kind of where you want to hang out with these big body trucks, and Lane Riggs able to figure that out pretty naturally from his upbringing at South Boston, and so this is just kind of being in his backyard for him. And so, yeah, for Corey Heim to not feel like he has a handle on the race at all, you really did something with the Truck Series in 2025.
Yeah, led the most laps, won both stages, his second win in the last 3 races, and he's now third of the championship standings. Probably would be higher without being docked 25 points after North Wilkesboro for that infringement and getting disqualified from the Kansas race. But of course, nobody's catching Corey Heim right now. Fourth on the road, Stuart Friesen, you feel bad for him. He had to come all the way from the back to finish third on the road and then get disqualified post-race. But it is in the record books officially a third-place finish for Corey Heim. Wouldn't have made a difference. He has already locked the regular season championship up either way. So, Brandon, on that note, we saw the stat on the broadcast Friday night. He's already led 1,000 laps on the season. Is this one of the most impressive, at least for right now? Who knows what's going to happen come playoff time, but is this shaping up to perhaps be one of the most impressive seasons in Truck Series history for Corey Heim?
Oh yeah, I mean it already was. It's just been many a race where it's no contest. I think Lime Rock Park most recently, at least in my mind, was just why are we even here? Because he's running away with it with class, and he's got the equipment with that team to get it done, and it's just he's coming to Cup, and he's getting there pretty fast.
He's got 5 wins on the year. Could probably be double that just as easily. Had some unlucky breaks gone his way instead of not going his way. And again,
plenty more that he should have won.
Yeah,
that would have
exactly
doubled it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, quite honestly, I think he could have 10 wins at this point already with how he's been running this year. And again, that just goes back to the debate that's come back up here once again. It's getting to be that time of year, fans pro playoff, anti playoff, based on the Sirius XM comments that came out last week as well. We talked about that last week on the Grid Tonight show. I understand the argument that you want, a championship fight all the way to the end, but I think there are just certain drivers in certain years that are so far and away clearly the best of the best. Lane Riggs was the best of the best Friday night. Give him his credit where it's due. But you look at the season as a whole, Corey Heim saying he felt like this was the first race all year where he couldn't win, and he still ends up with a third-place finish. I mean, it just speaks to where that team is at right now, where that driver is at right now, and I think it is going to be a shame. We'll see. I mean, maybe the performance dips in the playoffs, and we'll tally the points up at the end of the year. Maybe somebody makes a unlikely run at it or goes off, does what he's doing now when we get to the playoffs and wins the championship that way. Who knows what's going to happen? But as of right now, if you're clinching the regular season championship 2 races early, I think there's very little argument who the best driver is in the series right now. And it's going to be a shame if that driver, Corey Heim, is not rewarded with a championship. But we will cross that bridge when we get there. In the meantime, congratulations to him on winning a championship, the regular season championship, for whatever that's worth. And congratulations, of course, to Lane Riggs as well on winning the race. We move on now to the ARCA Menards Series, the second of 3 East Series combo races in 3 weeks. Very busy time for both National ARCA and the East Series, but congratulations to Brent Cruz on winning this one. I have to say, Brandon, as well, some great racing throughout the field here at IRP. and in the Truck Series as well. I think only strengthening the argument maybe we should bring the Xfinity cars back here. But well done to Brent and that Gibbs 18 team. Kind of a formality for them in a lot of these races that we go to. Not surprising to see them in victory lane, but sure confidence boost for Brent nonetheless. Lawless Allen second, Brendan Queen third, a couple of championship protagonists up there. Isabella Robusto was fourth, so continuing her rebound after the rough start to the season that she had. One of 6 female drivers in the field that ties a record with Daytona 2010 and Milwaukee 2022 for most female competitors in one ARCA Menards Series race. And LeVar Scott as well with another solid top 5 finish. Isaac Kitzmiller right in front of his father Jason in 7th there actually opened up his gap quite a bit in the East Series championship standings over Tyler Reif. And I got to be honest, I feel like, the Kitzmillers are doing a great job with the independent resources that they have. I feel like Tyler Reif has a slight equipment advantage, and I thought that might mean Isaac was going to be in a little bit of trouble during these combo races with a larger field. We had 34 cars in the field for this race. We actually had one that failed to qualify. As you can see, we'll take you through the back half of the results here now. I thought that larger car count would play to Reif's advantage a little bit more, but give the Kitzmiller team some credit. Isaac has gone out there and continued to do everything he needs to do to extend his championship advantage. And with nobody running that 18 or 28 car full time this year, of course, last year was really just Zilisch and Sawallich trading blows back and forth. And then Zilisch got taken out of the Bristol race, and that opened the door for Sawallich to win the title in the East Series side of things. It's wide open this year for a team that's a little bit more independent with less resources than Gibbs or Pinnacle to win that title. And if Isaac Kitzmiller could pull this off, I think it would be a great story.
I selfishly also want to highlight a couple of Tennessee drivers in that lineup there. Another top 10 for Hunter Wright from out of Nashville area, and then Portland, Tennessee's Jackson McLaren also on that same team. Both making an effort to go up there to Indiana, finishing in 20th.
Yeah, great runs for each of them there as well. And of course, much more on this later on the Women in Motorsports show, whenever that next episode is. But Lainey Bice ends up in 11th for Rev Racing. Regina Serving, great to see her out there again in 17th. Quinn Davis, I think, is getting about as much out of, with no disrespect to Rise Motorsports, again, a team that also does a lot with the little. I think getting as much out of a car as you could reasonably expect anybody to get, and running better in that car than many of the drivers previous to her. So congratulations to her on a solid top 20 run for that team. Cadence Davenport, good to see her back out here again in 23rd. And then unfortunate for Becca Monopoly, who is your last place finisher in the last car article will be coming on her in the next couple of days here. Pretty sure she lost an engine. I don't know. I think Racing Reference just listed their standard mechanical as her reason out, but I think the third turn went with engine. Certainly had the car go up in smoke, and that's unfortunate to have that happen as early in the race as it did. But congratulations to everybody out there who put in their best effort at IRP in the ARCA Menards Series. And we will close the show tonight by taking you through some open wheel results. We'll start with Indy NXT. There was a doubleheader this weekend at Laguna Seca. Congratulations to Kyle Collette on sweeping the weekend. Dennis Hauger took second in race 1. Take a look at the race 2 results. However, you see our 2 championship protagonists, the drivers who were our 2 championship protagonists, Dennis Hauger and Lockie Hughes. They came together at the end of race 2, or during race 2 rather. 16th and 15th respectively. Kyle Collette picking up max points with sweeping the weekend. He is now your second place driver in the Indy NXT standings, just 41 back of Hauger with 3 races remaining. It is not a done deal by any means, given those numbers. And Brandon, I know we've been talking all season about how Hauger looks a lot like Alex Palou, just kind of running away with his championship, but it looks like now Kyle Collette might actually have a chance to take the fight to him here in these last 3 races. So we'll keep our eye on that as we might have a championship battle in Indy NXT. And I think certainly that'll be a nice thing for open wheel fans because, again,
not much to offer, is there?
A lot like Connor Zilisch in Xfinity, and even to a greater degree, Alex Palou has a chance to clinch a championship early at Portland next week, despite Pato Award's best efforts.
I think Pato's 121 points back or something like that right now. Still a long way to go. Only 3 races to do it.
Yeah, again, I think a matter of when, not if, for Alex Palou at this point. If not Portland, maybe Milwaukee. Certainly, I would think by Nashville, he's got that in the bag. But That's Indy NXT. And finally tonight, like we mentioned, Formula One at Spa. So were F3 and F2. Here are your sprint race results for F3. Congratulations to Noah Stromsted on winning that sprint race. No feature race results. Of course, F1 fans, I think, had the PTSD from 2021 kicking in. Not sure when that race was going to get started. The feature race for Formula 3 was wiped out entirely. It was unable to resume. And so we only have sprint race results here to show you tonight. Not the case in Formula 2, however. It was Leonardo Fornaroli who won the sprint race, and then they were able to get the feature race in there. But again, championship picture taking a bit of a form here. Richard Verschoor, Jack Crawford were running 1-2 going into this weekend. You see Verschoor down in 21st, Crawford in 10th, only the top 8 score in sprint races. And then in the feature race, down there in 18th and 17th as well. Roman Stanek, your feature winner, we'll talk about that in just a moment. But it's a sprint winner, Fornaroli, who takes the championship lead as a result of both of those drivers not scoring points this weekend. They do still remain second and third in the championship. But Brandon, one final question before we sign off for tonight. Some NASCAR fans, I think, have brought this up with all the disqualifications we've been getting recently as well. The race win changed hands twice after the checkered flag came out. Alex Dunne was hit with a 10-second time penalty that dropped him down to 10th originally and gave Arvid Lindblad the win. But then Lindblad was disqualified for a technical infringement. That brought Alex Dunne back up to 9th and everybody else up one spot. Roman Stanek inherits the win as a result. So what does it say about the series or the rules and regulations that the race win can change hands twice after the checkered flag comes out? Do you think it's important that the rules are being enforced, or do you think that it's maybe time to take a look at tweaking those rules a little bit to at least ensure that those decisions are made a little bit quicker so that fans leave the track knowing who actually won the race?
It's important that rules get enforced, Ben, but also you got to think about all the folks in the media center that are putting out their lead and, so, developing their stories, or the TV broadcast putting it out, and all of a sudden they're giving incorrect information. That's a huge problem. But like how long was it for these changes to happen after the checkered flag?
That's a good question. It was early, of course, for us here in America,
Right.
early Sunday morning. So just kind of woke up to the news, was catching up the news as the day was going on. But yeah, I mean, I think that, again, I go back and forth on this because I understand that, the rule book is there for a reason. You can't have teams bending it to the point where it constitutes an unfair advantage. But, I feel like NASCAR has a decent system in place right now. I still kind of feel like 90 minutes to 2 hours is sometimes a long time to be sitting there waiting. Like, well, this is, I mean, you saw it this weekend in the Cup race with Bubba Wallace, a great story, but, it took like 2 hours for tech to be clear, and everybody's like, okay, he is the winner, right? We got to make sure, we're putting all these stories out there and seeing all this media happen. And, it's always, again, Parker Clearman certainly knows that well from Daytona this year. It's in the back of your mind that, it's not official until tech says, all clear, no issues. And, we've certainly seen that in the past with Formula One as well. And it's not just technical issues. Sometimes it is the 5 or 10 second penalties. I remember when Carlos Sainz got his first podium with McLaren in Brazil in 2019, and everybody thought they were kind of all pretty sure that Lewis Hamilton was going to get a 5 second penalty. I think there was contact with Alex Albon, if I recall correctly. And people were saying, if you're going to penalize Lewis, you have to do it now because this is going to be Carlos's first podium, and you can't rob him of the experience of actually getting a real F1 podium experience here. And that's ultimately what happened because, Lewis took all the pictures and everything, and then they gave him his 5 seconds. He fell back to 4th. That promoted Carlos Sainz to the podium, and we made the joke that only Carlos could get a podium without it being shown on TV because the McLarens didn't seem to be getting a lot of love from the world feed that year. But I think that's just one of many examples where a result changes hands after the race. You saw it at Spa last year with George Russell winning on the road, Lewis Hamilton finishing in second. And because Russell was disqualified, Lewis Hamilton's last win with Mercedes is a race where he finished second on the road at Belgium rather than breaking that long winless drought in front of his home fans at Silverstone. And I understand enforcing the rules, but I just feel like from a historical perspective, that British Grand Prix feels like Lewis's last win with Mercedes. It's such a more fitting story for that to be his last win with Mercedes. And it's unfortunate that his actual last win was on a technicality with his teammate getting disqualified. So again, I'm glad I'm not the one that makes the decisions, but all I can say is, from a race fan's perspective, I see both sides of it, but I do think, it would be nice to have a little bit more confidence in our results, not just in open wheel racing, but in stock car racing as well. More than sooner rather than a couple of hours before or after rather the race has come to an end. So we'll leave it there. I'm sure the discussion is going to continue whenever it happens next, because I would imagine that's not our last DQ of 2025. Again, we saw one in Truck Series as well as Stuart Friesen this weekend. So maybe it's good that series are putting their foot down and enforcing the rules a little bit more strictly, but it does make the post-race reports a little bit messier in that regard here as well. So let's end the show on a more positive note tonight, Brandon. Obviously, we've had a lot of unfortunate things to talk about here, starting the show off with the Xfinity controversy. But what was your one shining moment from what we had this weekend in the world of motorsports? Plenty to choose from, I think, on that side as well.
Yeah, I think you've got some of the heavy hitting ones, and I think we all have some that you're about to share. But I had to go with some of the other ones that you may have missed. Cookie Monster was the Grand Marshal at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Two ideas that I never thought would go together, but did a great job. I got to say, did a great job. And Tony Donahue from the Unverified podcast with David Land and Kyle Cuthbertson, that they got. Tony was in the media center when Cookie Monster showed up to the podium, and puppeteers, man, I don't know how they do it, but they pulled it off so well, because he was behind that podium and he was like, "You guys are kind of quiet." He's like, he was like making fun of the seriousness of the media center. And then he also, Cookie Monster, you had one job. You're supposed to say, "Drivers, start your engines." He said, "Drivers, to your cars." So I guess B+. I don't know. You get a cookie. So Cookie Monster showing up as a Grand Marshal, and also ARCA drivers were announced for iRacing's project NASCAR 25. And I know, Ben, you were sharing that as well.
Yes.
I'm not a console player. I probably won't own this title, just using iRacing, but I'm excited for console players, and especially that iRacing is all behind the engine behind this, bringing NASCAR back to the console, and hopefully a more solid product. And I wouldn't doubt it with iRacing being the one behind it. But I mean, you now get to race, Ben, as Dale Quarterly and Alex Quarterly.
Alex Quarterly, yes.
And Cletus and Butterbean and everybody. So
Rita Goulet is in the game. I mean,
yeah.
Brandon, I got to tell you, I am so impressed with ARCA and with iRacing and everybody behind NASCAR 25. And I want to say, I cannot wait. It has been almost 4 years since NASCAR 21 Ignition. I remember the gap from EA's last title, NASCAR 09. They kind of gave us something to tide us over with NASCAR kart racing for the Wii.
No, they did not.
Being their last, well,
they did not.
I grew up with a Wii.
Don't you start.
Yeah. But I think it was like 2.5 years between NASCAR 09 coming out in the back end of 08 and then NASCAR 2011 coming out in the spring of the 2011 season. And I thought that was a long wait. We've had to wait 4 years. I know IndyCar fans are going to be mad in our comment sections because they're still waiting. It's been 22 years, I think, since they got one.
And they were almost promised one from the defunct company too.
It might have been a blessing in disguise, because the last NASCAR game, I mean, we say it's been almost 4 years. I mean, listen, MLB The Show just announced that you're going to be able to play the Speedway Classic. They put a model of Bristol in the show. I've got a feeling the show's model of Bristol probably has better Bristol physics than NASCAR 21 Ignition had. But that's not.
It looks more like Bristol than Ignition did. We can
leave Ignition well into the past. I don't think anybody needs to play that game again. Certainly not after NASCAR 25 drops. But yeah, Joe says it there as well. Agree with ARCA drivers on NASCAR 25. That's big. And credit to them for going all in. EA Sports, as much as we look back on those games with nostalgia, they had the modified tour. EA Sports would have had maybe Sawalich, Queen, LeVar Scott, Thad Moffitt, maybe one or two other names, and then said, okay, just give him a bunch of fantasy drivers. They'll be fine.
Give him tie sheets and we'll call it a day.
Han's good, right? The all-state car.
Yeah, but nothing, to me, nothing does more promotion for your motorsport than having an officially licensed game on the shelf, or the virtual shelf, and having detailed driver livery. You got to have all of that. That's what to me anyway, from our experience, I think it still happens today. That's what captures the heart of young boys and girls that are going to follow NASCAR.
Yeah, I mean, and again, this goes back to, I mean, people have been talking about
IndyCar too.
Where does the youth stand on the playoffs? And they don't know a world without it anymore. I think, I mean, you want to talk about getting the youth involved in our fan base and in our sport. Denver says iRacing should do an IndyCar game. I think that would. I
think it's coming after they get this project underway. Because they have the license for IndyCar too.
I'd love to see it. It's unfortunate what happened with motorsport games, but I will tell you the reason. I don't know if I've ever shared this on this show before. People ask me sometimes, why is your handle number 53? A big part of that was because, again, like I mentioned, Brandon, I had a Wii. I didn't have a PS3 or Xbox 360 growing up. So I was very excited when NASCAR 2011 came out. And I was so disappointed when the Wii version, of course, the Wii wasn't as powerful of a console. There was no paint booth. But what Technics and Activision did was they put in, I think, like 17 pre-made custom cars. And I put like 15 seasons into that game, single seasons, playing this NASCAR.com Superstore paint scheme with the number 53. And that just kind of became my number throughout middle school and high school, and it just has stuck with me ever since. And also, Herbie certainly grew my affinity for that number, and Herbie was the reason Alexander Rossi chose number 53 when he did his 5 Formula One starts with Manor in 2015. So, to your point about video games, being part of a kid's core memory was certainly the case for me, and I hope that the team at iRacing has put together. I mean, certainly with the driver rosters and with ARCA especially, to have that level in our game, I think is a very, very good thing, and a lot of people are going to benefit from that, whether it's sponsors or drivers or however teams are going to be able to activate that.
All of it.
Yeah, it's going to be great. So cannot wait for that to come out. Let me get my one shining moment now. Segment's usually not that long, but thank you for bringing that up, Brandon. I think it's important that we make a note of that, and I'm sure the rest of the rosters will be released here soon enough. Apologies if you can hear that. My coworker's scanner seems to be going off randomly. These things sometimes do that. I unplugged mine here, but hers is a little bit further away, so hopefully it's not coming through here too much.
These things do happen.
They do. Well, I'm not on wrap up these days very much anymore. I do want to talk about the Cup race a little bit. A lot of history made this weekend. Bubba Wallace, I mean, we talked about Lane Race tonight, the most impressive win of his career. This is, I think, easily Bubba Wallace's most impressive win of his career at the Cup Series level at the very least. To kind of be in the driver's seat, I know Kyle Larson was closing a little bit there towards the end, but to then have the caution come out for that rain shower and have to sit through that rain delay knowing that it only clipped a part of a track. We're probably going to get this race restarted. And then to go through the first overtime restart, hold off Kyle Larson, a driver who's considered by many to be one of the best in the world at what he does. And then to have one of your Toyota teammates get involved in an incident, Christopher Bell, bring out the caution once again, and to do it on a second overtime restart, hit all his marks, and come away with the win in, I made this joke last night, the Brickyard 420, I guess, with how many miles we ran in overtime. But to do 20 extra miles running low on fuel. I mean, the amount of pressure that he must have been under to close that win out, I think certainly, again, say what you will about overtime. I certainly have my feelings and my opinions. But I think the driver that won the Brickyard 400 ultimately won the Brickyard fill in the blank here anyway, and I appreciate that. And kudos to Bubba Wallace for picking up that win, the third of his career, breaking I think 100 race.
100, yeah. Well, it's 0 now.
Yeah, it's 0 now, as he said in his post-race interview. And again, I know he's saying, what are they going to say now? His haters and detractors, I think, having a pretty rough Monday morning here.
I hope he can finally put that to rest. I hope this would be the weekend where that side of his personality can take a breath.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, just
Well,
relax.
all of him taking a breath. I think
Right.
that's
Exactly.
And you saw the emotions in his post-race interview. And I want to say this as well, because Bubba Wallace was the driver that kind of set the precedent for the right rear hook, right? With what happened with Kyle Larson, in that race a few years ago. Look
Vegas.
at how many drivers had their hand out the window cheering for him, and what was the reaction like? I mean, again, there was certainly the reaction. Forget that crowd. That crowd is not even worth, a mention here. We've already talked about them too much already. The true fans of our sport, the fans that have known Bubba Wallace from when he was still Darrell Wallace Jr. on the broadcast. You've seen him come up through K&N, come up through trucks, through Xfinity, now in Cup, now with Michael Jordan and Denny Hamlin in 2311. Everything that 2311 is going through right now. I mean, just to see how happy everybody was for him. I think that there maybe is a path for Austin Hill, depending on how he reacts to whatever's going to happen in the aftermath of this, to maybe get to that point. It's going to take a lot of work, but Bubba Wallace and Kyle Larson, I think, are good now. You never forget something like that, but Kyle finished second, and he was able to take it in stride and congratulate Bubba for what he did, and I think that's beautiful. So I think, again, that's the path that I would like to see Austin Hill follow, and
absolutely,
we'll
the redemption arc is my favorite. I hope that for all of these characters.
Yes. So again, that I think is the obvious shining moment, history-making moment that came out of this weekend. It's a crown jewel win for Bubba as well. I mean, just so massive for that driver and for that team, but also Catherine Legg. I mean, I was saying on the Women in Motorsports show, given the car that she is in, the experience that she has, or lack of experience really, in certainly a Cup car, but even in stock car racing, that I think a top 25 would be a really solid day, no matter what track she is at. Just keep the car in one piece, bring it home cleanly, and if there's a lot of attrition, maybe a top 25. She was 17th at the Brickyard 400. That's better than any Cup race she's run. That's better than any Indianapolis 500 she's run. That is better than the last car on the lead lap. And if I understand it right, I think her cool suit also failed towards the end of the race. I mean, just an incredible drive from her, given everything that she's had to go through this year. The controversy after the Phoenix debut, and what happened at Rockingham in the Xfinity race. I know it's unfortunate what happened to her in the Xfinity Series. I saw her on pit road there towards the end. Wasn't able to finish that one, but certainly more than made up for it in the Cup race yesterday. So well done to her. That is another shining moment without a doubt. All right, that's going to be our show for this evening. So thank you all so much for tuning in. Going a little bit over an hour here, but wanted to end the show on a more positive note here in our one shining moment. So thank you all for sticking with us through that. And be sure to follow us at Grid Network TV on all our social media platforms, X/Twitter, Threads, Blue Sky, whatever microblogging platform you're using these days. We're on all three of them. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitch, LinkedIn. Most importantly, best thing you can do for us, subscribe to us right here on our YouTube channel and visit our website at gridnetworktv.com. You can catch Matthew Bro's article recapping the Brickyard 400 this weekend. If you really like what you saw tonight, of course, you can, like I said at the top of the show, take a few minutes afterwards here to invest in our Patreon. Join Colin, Shell, Mark, Robin, David, and Matthew in helping us expand our coverage throughout 2025 and beyond. You can also become a member through the Grid Network YouTube channel, or if you'd rather make a one-time contribution to us instead, you can tip us on YouTube through Super Chat or Super Thanks, or you can visit Buy Me a Coffee, also in the description box below. Any amount helps us continue to grow our motorsports media outlet. Now, taking a look at our upcoming schedule, Kobe Lambeth will be back on Wednesday, as always, with Joshua Birch and Matt White. Stay tuned as our new pre-race show format continues with NASCAR this weekend and the other series that are in action. Women Motorsports was back last week. I wasn't able to join that one, but Joe Samniego and Emily Sharp finally got a new episode in, so go catch that one. Stay tuned for the next one as well. Grid Live wrapping it all up to follow it out this weekend, and then Encore will be back. I'll save that for my final thoughts here as for that part of our upcoming schedule. Brandon, any final thoughts from you before we sign off for the evening?
As the kids once said, it's corn. That's where we're going to, Iowa Speedway. And after the IndyCar doubleheader this year and the attendance of the IndyCar doubleheader this year, I hope all the best for the promotion team in Newton and for that whole weekend. And the NASCAR side certainly seems to be not missing a beat. So hopefully year 2 will be successful and they'll put on a good show.
All right. You know what I just realized? I put in my final thoughts here. See you in 2 weeks. It might be 3 weeks. We might have to do a Tuesday show because, again, quick programming note. As I hinted, Brandon wants nothing to do with me anymore. I keep leaving him, so he's going to leave me. As I hinted at during the show, next Monday for sure, I will not be here. I have the opportunity to go visit my cousins and aunt and uncle in London, and I'm so excited. My dad's younger sister has been able to make it over here a couple of times since the pandemic, but haven't seen the boys or my uncle in a long time, and really looking forward to taking that trip with my grandmother. So I'm going to be away next Monday. Brandon, hopefully we will find you a co-host and still have a show. And then I will be back in New England next Monday, but at 3:00, one of our student workers or former student workers who just graduated here in the library, my day job, he is getting married. So I don't know if I will be back by 7 p.m., but if I'm not, yeah. I would imagine, Brandon, hopefully it would work with your schedule to do a Tuesday show, or if I decide I'm too jet lagged still from the UK, we can have somebody fill in for me again. Either one will work, and we will again cross that bridge when we get there. It has been
figure it out.
Yes. Thank you all for sticking with me. It has been an unbelievably busy summer between the Sonoma date getting pushed back and then having the first family reunion on my mom's side that we've had since the pandemic. It's been 7 years since I got to see a lot of my cousins on that side as well. And then, again, I think part of me at first was like, let's save a London trip for next year or for something like that. But if, one thing that the last 5 years have taught me is that if you have the opportunity to do something, go and take it, because seemingly on a dime, stuff outside your control can throw a wrench in those plans. So
yeah,
we're going to do it. And I'm going to be jet lagged out of my mind even more than I already am. But like I said, we will keep the coverage coming for you on this show either way. Thank you all for sticking with us. It's been a crazy summer, like I said, but once I get back from that, hopefully the new semester will start right up here. I'll kind of get back in the theme of regularity a little bit, and we'll be able to bring you those shows uninterrupted through the rest of 2025 at the very least.
You'll be back in before the playoff madness anyway.
Exactly. Yes, that's coming up here before you know it as well. And Kobe here in the chat, great message for all of us again as well. Don't put off for tomorrow, because you never know
Do it now.
if you'll get that opportunity again. So that's a great place to end it on for tonight. Thank you all for watching. For Brandon Crossland, I'm Ben Schneider. I will see you in a couple of weeks.
I'll see you next
Brandon
week.
will hopefully see you next week. We'll see you next time. Kobe will see you in less than 48 hours here.
Right.
And it's all going to be right here on the Grid Network. Thank you for sticking with us. We'll see you next time.